Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone around the globe. Open heart, open mind. Welcome to the Sattva channel, the official online platform of the Sattva project. First of all, on behalf of myself, I would like to express thankfulness to everyone putting this project together, and not to forget also the important man behind the scene, our broadcast director, Brother Chong. Thank you very much for your generous contribution and kind efforts. Hi, Brother Chong. Would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our broadcast. Thank you, Ram. And please do like and share so that more can benefit from our broadcasts today. And for those watching on YouTube as well, please do remember to subscribe as well so that you can know when we are going live next. Now, back to you, Ram. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chong. So today we will be discussing about the victorious enemy. And so let me do some introductions. This will be a first part of the series. First, it's myself. I'm the coordinator of the Sattva Youth Program, and I came from IT background, and I have worked in both East and West, and now based from Bangkok. Okay, next, our honorable speaker, Bibek Sharma. I like to call him Achan Bibek. He was born in Nepal. He finished his BA in Buddhist Studies in International Buddhist College in Thailand. Further, he completed his Master of Arts Buddhist Studies from Fo-Guang University, Taiwan, where he learned classical Buddhist Chinese and translated a correspondence between Kumara Jiwa and Hui Yuan to complete his Master of Arts thesis. For his PhD, he joined Mahidol University, where he is currently working on Yashomitra Abhidharma Kosha Vyakya sub-commentary on the Abhidharma Kosha Bhashya to complete his PhD thesis. Currently, he is translating the first chapter of Abhidharma Kosha Bhashya as translated by Xuanzang for BDK Japan. He reads Chinese, Sanskrit, Pali, Hindi, and French, apart from his own mother tongue, Nepali. Welcome, Achan Bibek.
Namaskar to all of you, and thank you for inviting me for this wonderful talk. Thank you, Ram.
Thank you. And so now Bem, he's not here yet. Hopefully he will be able to join us soon. He's doing some wonderful things. Bem Mitruev is a translator from the Tibetan language. From 1995 to 2005, Bem studied at the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies in Varanasi in India, where he studied Tibetan history, poetry, Buddhist philosophy, Tibetan language, Sanskrit, and Hindi. Bem received the degree of Acharya, Master of Buddhist Philosophy. He currently works as a translator for the Buddhist teachers who come to Russia to teach. Okay, he will be here soon. So sorry for the delay on his behalf. Anyway, so Ajahn Vivek, so what do you think of the topic of tonight, the victorious enemy? I mean, first, of course, I don't want to go too much into formal definitions and details. I want this session to be more experiential, actually. So I might be asking some personal questions, but if you mind answering, please point it out. I will skip those.
Okay, thank you, Ram. Well, I'm not entirely clear about the title, Victorious Enemy. Maybe you wanted to say that it is someone who is victorious over enemies, or how do you? I don't know how you phrased it.
Okay.
Not very sure.
The idea is actually also we can be victorious over enemy, but before that can happen, we have to, according to the Bodhisattva path, or I would say the compassionate, including the basis of all Buddhism is metta and karuna, right? So in that, from those even simple points, the real victory is when actually there are no more enemies, or all of our enemies are of great victories, and we are not in a position to care if we are victorious or not. So if we are able to exercise metta, which is loving kindness, and karuna, compassion, and give all of our success, victory even we are in a bad position, um,
Mhm.
in a way of giving up our ego, if I understand correctly, to our enemy, and that win victory to them, at least from our perspective, and implicitly bring ourselves victory without this notion of victorious for ourselves. That's the basis of the discussion. I was having that in mind.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I understand why you phrased it in this way. Perhaps you also came across the Tibetan translation of this term, bodhisattva. So they have somehow translated it with some kind of heroic thing there. You know, so a bodhisattva is a hero because he destroys, as you said, the inner foes, the inner enemies, and that is the three main poisons: attachment, hatred, and delusion. So that is true. But for a bodhisattva, well, without making it very mysterious, like I could even say that they they lose everything to win in a way. What I mean is that they, um, if you are a bodhisattva, then let's say, according to the definition, then you are aiming the bodhi or samyak sambuddhata, Buddhahood, for the benefit of all the sentient beings. So actually, you come through a certain analysis, right? So why we want to do that? Then we have a certain analysis, right? If we think that everything has a cause and everything is cause and effect only, then our life necessarily is unending in the samsara, the normal conventional life, propelled by our karma and delusion. So we keep on uh, being born somewhere, and then we accumulate some kind of uh, habitual tendencies and karma, and then we again die, and then that karma will help us to be born again. So when we analyze this, then there is no end to that. Okay. Then second step is, well, there is a way to come out of this samsara, but then what about all sentient beings who used to be our mother, our caretakers? So, so you want to include them in your path. You want to take them in your path, and in that sense, let's say in the Avatamsaka, it is said that a bodhisattva takes a vow to remain in the samsara as long as they do not help all the sentient beings to come out of the samsara. So in that sense, it's a like mission impossible, and it's a very heroic thing to do. It's a mission impossible that you are doing, and that's why bodhisattva is considered a hero. He has no fear at all. So uh, and then, of course, how does he do that? So he has two things to accomplish. One is that he will destroy his own enemies inside, and then he will help all the sentient beings to reach to the enlightenment too. So he has two goals, two purposes of being a bodhisattva. So in that sense, it's a tremendously heroic thing. It's a and then, of course, you are the first thing is that you are supposed to win over yourself, in that sense, in the sense that you are not aiming for any kind of worldly pursuits, and there are 8 worldly pursuits, so you don't want to do that. Then you are solely aiming for the benefit of all the sentient beings. So in that sense, it's so heroic, and then in that sense, he has to conquer a lot of things inside first, so that he can spread that thing to all the sentient beings. So maybe I can elaborate what you wanted to say a little bit from this point of view.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Ajahn
Maybe
Bibek.
Bem can explain more.
Yes, welcome, Bem.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very sorry for being late. Very sorry.
No
But
problem at all.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
So I'm sure you're aware of the topic. What do you think? I mean, what feelings do you have about this topic? And that's where we have gone so far, actually.
So I didn't hear the beginning of your talk, but as I understand from the topic, victorious enemy. So probably you mean that being victorious over the enemy. Is it is
And
it
that's
is
what
it
I was
so?
explaining.
Yes,
Mm.
there are two
Yeah.
sides. One is you give the victory, and also you're also victorious. So there are two sides.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's two basic approaches of the Mahayana Buddhism. First, you need to be victorious over your own mind, over your inner enemies, the negative emotions and uh, the lack of enlightened knowledge that all of us have, and ignorance. And this is the first aspect. And of course there is second aspect, as it was said in Ratnavali by the Acharya Nagarjuna, so that you need to give the victory to your enemy, to your opponent. And this beautifully underlines the two main things that keep us in the samsaric wheel, so to say. First, it's our self-cherishing, because we always think that I am better than that person. Even if I'm not better in something, there is some aspect, some regard in which I'm better than this or that person. Even if he is happier, or if even he or she is richer than me, still I'm more clever, I'm more handsome, I have whiter teeth, I have bigger nose, whatever it can be anything. And that's what we have, this inclination that we have in our being. And we quite often, not to say always, we see ourselves as better person than our opponent. And this is what Buddha said, that we need to eliminate. We need to start to cherish others more than our own self. And in Bodhisattva Charyavatara, Shantideva cites many reasons why we should do practice this way. And the second aspect also is very beautiful. Until we have this ignorance of grasping for the truly existent I, or true existence itself, we are not able to free ourselves from the samsara. So those are two basic reasons why we are here. And in this topic, the victorious enemy, it seems to me that it encompasses both of the aspects.
Yes, exactly. That was my intention. Thank you. And I don't want to actually go into too much theoretical. I hope I will be asking more personal questions from more experiential point of view. So hopefully more people can relate to this view or practices. Of course, I'm just a very beginner. So we talk about that we have first to be victorious ourselves. Can we actually do like we at least set our mind to give victory, even we are not victorious ourselves? Like we think we are a complete failure, but we think the world will be a better place if I wish everybody to be successful. Something like pretend. Can we start in that mode? What do you think?
Well, I think that, of course, if we could give victory to our enemy, to our opponent. I didn't like the word enemy in this context. In this context, better to say opponent, the person who stands in front of us. I think that this world would be a better place, because quite often people compete with each other or fight with each other, not for a rational reason, not to get something, not to get some benefit, just because they do not want that person to get it, or just to defeat that person. And quite often it happens so that in this or that situation there is no win, there is no something that you get out of the fight, even if you win. For example, there are many cases when people start to fight in the street. And you understand that even if you beat this person, you will go to jail. And because of that petty benefit, or this feeling of pleasure of victory, you will have to suffer for quite a long time in the jail. And moreover, quite often you have to pay for the medical services of the person whom you have beaten. But person in the moment who is under this way, under the control of the emotions of the negative emotions, doesn't understand it, and still keeps fighting, though there is no reason anymore, there is no benefit. And in many such cases, if we could just stop and give the victory to the enemy, to the opponent, because quite often it's not important. Quite often people fight or debate over some trivial things that are not important for us at all, just because it touched upon uh, uh, their mm,
Maybe ideology or belief.
yeah, ideology or belief, or their vision of themselves. You see, quite often it's
Okay.
it's it's not important.
Well, good points. Vivek, what do you think? Is it consequential, the practice, or it can be combined? Like I can pretend to give the victory just as a beginning practitioner, or do I have to really be really victorious against all my kleshas first? Which is also almost impossible,
Well,
very difficult.
well, yeah. A few points. I think uh, unless we have a kind of a idea what is going on. Well, let's say I would like to give you an example. Um, I have certain childhood issues. Let's say I have certain childhood issues. We don't need to specify. Then that happened, and I forgot. Right. Some 20 years after that incident happened. Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
maybe I was speaking to myself.
We can hear you clear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Now you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Hello.
All good. All good.
Oh, my internet is very bad. I don't know what happened.
We can hear you very clearly. You might not hear us. Okay. Hopefully his connectivity will recover.
Well, it seems to me that I understand what Bibek wanted to say.
Hmm.
As while the connection, Bibek's connection is Bibek. Okay,
Yes, yes.
while he doesn't have, while he's still experiencing the problems, I will try to say what it seems to me what Bibek wanted to say. In many cases, when you see when something bad is happening, some kind of crime, does it mean that we have to give our victory to the opponent? If I go in a street and see somebody beating a person, an elderly person, a child, or something like that happening to a person, does it mean that I need to give victory to that person and just walk by and do nothing? It seems to
Uh,
me that it's not what is meant here. When we say that I need to give
mhm.
the victory to the opponent, it doesn't mean that I give it in any case, in every cases. It means only when it concerns my selfishness, my self-centered attitude. In this case, you should give the victory to the opponent. In the cases that I cited before, you should act. I think that this is a general Buddhist position. You just cannot stand and do nothing
I,
and let things like that happen. This is not what meant by the giving the victory to the opponent.
I agree, but I will try to dissect your point and oppose it actually, or maybe actually we might have the same understanding. But again, okay, let me start. So I think the key idea, in my view, but please help clarify if I go wrong. The key view is that even if I see a person, an old person being bullied, I must wish enlightenment for the person who is bullying, and I might as well take actions or no action. I think it's two separate issues. I think if I have the awareness and I see the big picture, I should still give victory to them, wish them full enlightenment, and then take with this awareness take appropriate action. That's I hope uh, we
This
can
is
clarify
this
on
is
this.
of course this is unquestionable. Whenever you meet people in whatever situation you find yourself, if you have this ability, because not all of the people, not all of the followers of Mahayana, including myself, does have this ability to wish enlightenment, sincerely wish enlightenment to all the persons that we meet, good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. Whenever you find yourself in any situation, you always see these persons as you always wish these persons to obtain enlightenment, and this is unquestionable. I'm not even taking into the scope this question. And when you see doing somebody doing something bad, doing something evil, of course it means that you even to in regard of this person, you need to give the victory to that person in I mean here
In a worldly way,
victory.
like
uh, no, victory over your own selfishness. That's
mm,
what I understand under the victory, giving the victory to that person. It doesn't mean that you see somebody beating some person, some elderly person, and you think, I will give victory to that culprit, to that person who is beating elderly person, and stand with your hands raised. No, no, it
mm,
doesn't mean it at all. And why you should stop that person acting? First of all, because this person causing suffering to other person. This is one. Secondly, this person is also causing the sufferings for him or her own self. Because whenever somebody acts in a bad way, evil way, uh, this person will have to experience the results of his or her own actions, and you should try to stop this person from creating or this bad karma or doing this if it's in your power. Of course, there are many cases when you are not in a position to stop anybody from doing something. Of course, you need to understand that we are in samsara, we are conditioned beings, we have these bodies created of flesh and blood. But if you have this opportunity, if you have this ability, and if you have this courage, it seems to me that you should act.
I agree. I completely agree. But the point is that also we sometimes we don't know the full story, right? So we're not I mean, at least I'm not clairvoyant to know what's going on. It could be that this old person has a knife or a gun. Sometimes I'm not, okay. I'm giving an extreme example, but I think the intention. That's what you said. It's unquestionable. But we should wish victory for all parties, for everyone, actually, even the bad or the good. I mean, the momentarily bad or the good, right? If I understood correctly.
Well, that's very funny. That's very funny question. For example, if I stop somebody from beating an elderly person, and let's suppose this person has a bomb or a gun or something else that can hurt a lot of people, but I do not know that. I see
Mm.
just an elderly, weak elderly person, and somebody is beating that person. Even if I do not know that, I try to stop the other person who is beating that old person. What motivation do I have? Would it
Yes.
be a virtuous action from my point of view, from my side, or no? All the virtuous and unvirtuous actions are judged by the intention, not by the outcome. When you come to a court, then you are judged by the outcome. But when you practice, you are judged by your intention.
Very good point. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Ajahn Vivek, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm back. What was the question actually?
Oh,
Sorry.
well, I was talking, Bem was giving an example like an elderly person is being bullied on the street. We must go help,
Mhm.
and not just give the victory. But I was mentioning a point which Vivek said there's no need to discuss because it's clear that we must wish full enlightenment even for the person who is doing the bully. And
Mhm.
then of course, then I mentioned like we don't know the complete story, and then Bem just explained the rest of the ending part of this, what we talked about just
Okay.
now.
Yeah. Okay. Now I understood the context. Yeah, it is true that for a practitioner, let's say, from the point of view of a practitioner or beginner's point of view, then the most important thing is, of course, the intention, right? So I do not know the complete picture. Probably I will never, but for some time I will not know the complete picture. And then you see certain incident being happen, and then you act out of the true motivation, right? So you have a very pure intention to, let's say in that case, stop beating that guy, elderly, being beaten by that young guy. I don't know, whatever situation. But at the same time, bodhisattvas are not exempt of uh, these, you can say, shortcoming, right? They are asked to develop some supernatural powers so that they can read the actual situation. So there are texts which encourages a bodhisattva, and there are texts which encourage bodhisattvas to develop this kind of psychic power so that they can have an accurate knowledge of what is actually going on. So, and then what is the intention of these people. But yes, until we have that, we should try to achieve that level of understanding, and we should have those kind of qualities. But until we do not have it, then best way to act is depend on your best motivation. I think that's all we can have in a given situation.
Thank you. Okay, now I will mention some incidents which happened recently. There are some major scandals related to major persons in Buddhism, well-known teacher. And what have you personally done to people who start slandering Buddhists and Buddhist teachers and things like that? With the recent incident of some people, put bad stories against some of our respected teachers. What have you personally done in your from your perspective in terms of in the context of giving victory? If you have done anything as a person, as a personal question.
Here, well, I would like to make one point clear, perhaps. Why do bodhisattvas give victory to others? So it is not in a literal sense, but the most important thing in Buddhism, it's whether it's a Sravakayana or a Mahayana, is to conquer your clinging, your ego clinging, right? So we think that I exist, and normally we think that either this body or mind is I, and then we try to preserve it. We try to preserve it, either our emotional level or anything. We label it as I, and then we try to act out of this ignorance. So in Buddhism, the most important part of Buddhist path is to dismantle this wrong idea, misconception about the reality. So one reason we are giving the victory to another person is that there is no one to win. Actually, there is no such person inside, and uh, existing on its own. That would be able to win something or acquire something. There is no such thing. Right? So that's why one of the most important practices is to dismantle this ego clinging, that you think there is something substantial inside. There is I, and then we try to preserve it. So how do we try to preserve it? We try to preserve it through the 8 worldly concerns, and one of them is to gain something, a praise, to get the praise, or to benefit something, right? And some of our emotions that play to preserve this ego is mana, or some kind of conceit, let's say. And then that conceit uh, competes with another person. Let's say I am 5 foot tall, then I often say that, okay, 4 foot 9 inches shorter, and then 6 foot is taller than me. So I'm always comparing myself. Why? Because I have a standard. I have a clinging of something that belongs to me, and I label it as me, and then I try to preserve it, and then I continue to measure everything with with this yardstick. So
Yes.
foremost work of a bodhisattva is to dismantle this, and that's why they try to give the victory to others. We have to understand, right? That we are clear about this concept. But it does not mean that bodhisattva becomes a vegetable. It's not like, okay, come, I'm a carpet, you can do whatever you want. Bodhisattva is always acting according to the context. He looks at the context, he judges it with his wisdom, and he uses his compassion, and then he tries to weigh whether what I am doing is beneficial to me and others. That is the foremost thing to think about. In the case of His Holiness Dalai Lama, I think it was uh, a very clear intention. I don't know by whom, but it was an intention to
It doesn't
spread.
matter. I'm care
Yeah.
about your personal practice. I don't care what other people think. Please,
Okay.
I don't want to
So
touch any people what they think. It will be beyond
okay,
the scope.
I understand. So the first thing I did personally was what was going on, right? What happened in this event, and then who is this boy, and what kind of interaction is this? So I tried to Google and found a lot of videos which were not edited, and then I start to get the complete picture of that event. That I understood that that boy was very familiar with, and boy's mother also was very familiar with His Holiness, and then the whole event was not just 10 seconds, but it lasted for a long time. There were a lot of exchanges, interactions between His Holiness Dalai Lama and the child, and the mother was present all the time, as
I
well
think
as,
people can find about the story online, but what have you
yes.
done? I mean, specifically.
So that's what I have done. First thing was to
Okay.
determine whether there is
Okay.
a truth, right? Whether this is
Okay.
a fake story or this is being made up. So I tried to
Okay.
find out. That's the first thing. I looked at it from the point of view of wisdom, let's say. So I investigated and tried to find out the actual picture. So when I found out that this was being propagated, wrongly propagated, then I also realized that a lot of people are creating a negativity towards His Holiness Dalai Lama unnecessarily, right? And then we know from the Buddhist point of view that when you create something, when you have a negative emotions, you will have consequence, and that is proportionate to the person in front. Let's say if the person in front is a Buddha, then the intention of or the result of your negative emotions is much higher than a normal person, right? So first of all, that was in my mind that, okay, a lot of people are unnecessarily generating a negative emotion. So I started to give the facts, the other videos, and try to give a very balanced perspective of the whole event. So that was the first thing I did.
Okay. Thank you. And Bem, do you have any views on this?
Well, what Bibek said is quite a good approach. First of all, you need to research. In many cases, when you see some kind of scandal or you see some kind of uh, this kind of happening, In many cases, people just didn't fully understand the situation, and before they understand anything, they start to judge. They start to express their judgment of this person, that person, even without seeing the whole picture. And in this world, especially in last 10, 20 years with the internet, people just quite often do not understand anything. And if you watch the news or something like that and read the commentaries, in many cases you can see that people are just writing their own mind, and
I
what they
agree.
write doesn't
I-
have any connection, any relation to the situation. It happens in many cases.
Okay, what have you done? I mean, specifically, I mean, for such incident, for example.
First, myself, of course. The first step was the same like in Bibek's case. First, you need to research. You need to do some research about anything you are going to discuss or express your opinion publicly. So, first of all, I also found the whole recording of the meeting, and believe me, it was a long one. And the meeting didn't end after the accident. And it was a long discussion, and Bibek is completely right. The mother and the father, the parents were present, and etc. And I have some friends who also started to ask questions, and they wanted to know my opinion and would wanted to know the situation itself. But before I could say anything, I needed to do some research to see what happened at all in the first place. And then slowly I started to understand that what you see in the media is not complete picture, as it quite often is. It's not complete picture, first of all, and secondly, I need to tell you that I have very deep faith in His Holiness. I know His Holiness since 1992, and I've been around from that time, and I've been watching him for like more than 30 years. And I need to tell you frankly, I didn't believe. I didn't believe that his intention had anything bad in him.
Okay,
I
and
understood
did you
that
do any
maybe
practice for any parties or like some tonglen or anything, or give the victory or anything related to this
not
topic?
actually, not actually.
Okay.
You see what how I see this situation. First, before you do something, before you start saying something, before you start blaming something or somebody, you need to understand both sides. The side that is blamed and the blamers. And I understood that the case itself is quite empty of the substance. I didn't think that anything was intended, anything bad was intending, and anything bad happened. Uh, I didn't think so. From the point of view of my experience and my knowledge of His Holiness, I didn't think that anything bad was intended. First of all, secondly, we need also to try to understand the blamers. What
Mhm.
did they see? What did they experience? Why did they have such a strong reaction? And I understand that. I understand them too. If you see something like that out of context, if you do not know Dalai Lama, if you never heard him, if you see that the short clip on the internet, of course you will think something is wrong. And I understand these people too. And now we come to the third stage or third part, third element. We understood the situation. We understood people on this side and that side. Now what should we do? And what do you think? For my point of view, in some cases, it's better just to leave this case alone. There was an official explanation from the Dalai Lama's office. He expressed his feeling that he is sorry for this turmoil. there are a lot of explanations from different people, from linguists who study Tibetan language, from Tibetologists and people who study Tibetan culture, and all of us now about this expression in Tibetan language, and etc. and etc. I think it's quite clear case now. And from my own side, I tried to explain my position to my friends who were asking me about my point of view on that in that case, on what happened. And now I think it's time just let it go. Why?
Okay, that was
Because
not my question about, I mean, my question is about more about like, I think there were some, I mean, I think we agree that there was some negativity from the side of the blamers, right? Or not. If we agree on this, so can we do something to people who blames, for example, for people who create negativity out of this, just an example situation, it's not even particular, it can be any war, any conflicts elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
So
Well,
not
there are,
specifically in this case.
let's say there are two parties involved, right? We are talking
Yes,
about when
generally,
negativity,
yes.
there are two, let's say.
Generally, yes.
Uh, no, here I'm talking something completely different. Two parties. The person or a group of people who prepared this video,
Okay.
that is one. And one group, let's say I don't know who or what, and other people, those who reacted in the social media, just looking at a few seconds of the videos, right? So we have to deal these two groups of people in a different way, I think. Those who are reacting in the social media, either knowingly or unknowingly, either knowing the Tibetan culture or not knowing the Tibetan culture, either knowing His Holiness Dalai Lama, his track record, 70, 80 years of track record, or without knowing it, they just need information to correct their wrong idea, right? So I think there where we need to spread the correct information, the correct videos, the longer videos where there were more interactions with His Holiness Dalai Lama, and there are other videos that explain the Tibetan
Yes,
language.
sorry,
Okay,
Vivek, I have to cut
yeah,
you off. Please don't talk about the videos. I'm talking about more like the negativity that spread, right? Can we do something about the
yeah,
negativity that spread from our mind, like internal mind
yeah.
perspective, not in terms
Yeah,
of
that's what
spreading the news
you
and the
you just
videos?
had to wait few seconds. So
Okay.
in order to remove the negativity of those people, I started to give the correct videos. So that was the remedy I was trying to do, because they did not have the real bad intention to think something wrong about His Holiness. They were just misguided by that video. Now the
Okay.
second group, okay, now that group, they just need the correct information. Now the second group who prepared that video, I think they are they are the miserable one, I would say, because to have that kind of intention to defame such a person, I think they need the tongle, they need all the compassions, and they need all kinds of guidance and whatever we can do that, right? So we don't know who they are, what they are, what was real the intention. Was it just a TRP? They just wanted to have more views, they just wanted to have more money. Okay, this is the case of the Dalai Lama. I don't know, this is a pretty stupid thing, but it could be any one of them, and that is a very yeah, they just need some kind of guidance. They need the sympathy or some kind of
Good. Excellent.
compassion as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I was dividing these two groups. But for those who were just reacting out of their cultural background, let's say, right? So they live in USA or other parts of the world, and then they saw a lot of child abuse, and uh, the clergy is being implicated in that. They just
Yes.
reacted out of misinformation. So they
Yes.
just need the correct information about His Holiness, what happened, and so on and so forth. So that's what I
Okay.
was saying.
Thank you. Okay, now I will change the theme a little bit, and we will go to the some of the 37 Bodhisattva practice, some interesting points regarding the victory. I will point to, I think it's point 17. I will read it slowly. Even if others equal or inferior to me in status should out of arrogance disparage me, to honor them as I would my teacher by bowing down my head before them. This is the practice of all the bodhisattvas. What do you think about this?
Maybe Bem would like to say something classical.
Well, basically, so the question is, I just want to make it clear. The question is, Ram,
Yes, the question is, how do we put this into our daily life practice? Any example, personal example, if possible?
personal example, when somebody disparages us. Did I understand right?
Yes, something like that. Yes, or someone look down on us, or something like that. Yes.
I need to tell you from my heart, in this regard, I'm a bad Buddhist.
Thank
I'm
you.
very sorry.
Me
I'm
too.
very sorry. Because
Well,
if there is reason when somebody criticizes me, it's okay. It's okay. I can take the blame. My ego can survive. But whenever whenever somebody blames me without reason,
Sorry, we missed your last
I have very
sentence.
hard. Whenever somebody blames me without reason, I have very hard time bearing it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Though I understand the spirit of the 17th stanza, I understand it, and of course, rationally, I understand it, and I support it. This is the way to do it. But from my personal practice, from my personal, I'm very sorry. Sometimes I'm not up to that standard. I'm
Well,
very
me
sorry.
too, me too, me too, me too. But thank you for being so truthful. Vivek, you have some experience about this, or you want to
well,
share?
I do have. I do have. When I started the Buddhist practice, of course, some many years ago, um, it was even unthinkable, of course, because when I learned first read these texts, Bodhicharya Avatara and 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, and so on and so forth, it looked far fetched. But some recent events have kind of begged to reflect something uh, on my own. What happened is, like, since 2.5 years, I have been campaigning for in my Facebook, saying that Buddhism is not a branch of Hinduism. Right? And then, as we have already discussed, a lot of people, a lot of Nepalese and even some Indians, they come and react out of, I would say, misinformation. So they don't know that Buddhism is not the branch of Hinduism. It's a completely different set of knowledge, and so on and so forth. So what the first thing what they do is that blame me. They come and straight away they say that, okay, so you are trying to create some kind of discord in our society, that you are working for some kind of foreign agents, and so on and so forth, right? At first it was difficult to take these unnecessary allegations and like, in a way, very nonsensical reactions out of their own misconceptions. But slowly, I talked to my teachers, and also to my colleagues, to some other friends, and then I come to realize that it could be a very good practice, especially the practice of chanti, right? So I forbear all these kind of things. So it's a kind of a practice of a chanti. At the same time, it has also helped me to look at myself, like, who is being hurt, So what is that part that is being heard? And then I slowly I realized that actually the feeling of hurt is unnecessary, because they are reacting out of misconceptions. They don't have correct information. That's what they were. That's how they were brought up in Nepal, and being told that Buddhism is a part of Hinduism and so on and so forth. So they are just reacting out of they love their country, they love their society, they love their religion, and that's why they want peace and harmony, and then everything being harmonious. So I understand. So I think I've started to develop a deep sympathy for them, or even empathy for them, and this has given me a tremendous, um, you can say, stability in what I'm doing, and then also perhaps a little bit somewhere in the practice. Yeah, perhaps.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I'm of course, I'm a bad Buddhist too. Whenever somebody look down upon me or say something bad, or even I create my own imagination and somebody thinks of me as bad. I think that often happens, or I conclude that way sometimes. And I think for me, the first reaction is I don't like, But usually, what I do is, or if I may share, is I go back whenever I sit in meditation. I really focus on them and look at it as an opportunity to practice, to open my heart a little bit more. My heart is too small. That's how I usually do. But of course, when incident happens, I usually become a little bit destructive or self-destructive. Like think of negativity of myself sometimes, or whatever towards others. But again, it's a negativity to myself first. So yeah, this is a very interesting point, and thank you, Bem. I highly respect your answer. It's very, very impressive to admit this, and I share the similar bad Buddhist. Yeah, there are. Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Do you know this famous story about a practitioner of forbearance that meditated in Lhasa? Do you know this
Please
story?
share the story. Yeah, please share.
Well, it seems to me that it's also related to this question, because it is about forbearance, about patience. And there was such a story. You know that the capital of Tibet is Lhasa, and in Lhasa you have the famous Jokan Temple. Jokan Temple is in the middle of the city, and this is very popular place where almost all of the inhabitants of Lhasa would come for the circumambulation. They would go around this Jokang. It's not too big. I mean, they would just, and it was a place for socializing. So people would just meet up, talk, and etc., and maybe go and have some tea or something in nearby cafes, and etc. And there was a case when one lama was circumambulating the Jokang. He saw a person who was sitting and meditating. And out of context, it's not so obvious. But if you look at it from the other point, it's the same if a person would sit, for example, and meditate in a Times Square. And of course, uh, there is no place where you cannot meditate. You can meditate everywhere, but Times Square is not too conducive for the meditation. And this is the same case for the Lhasa Jokang Barkor. So this place for this circle of circumambulation, and this person was sitting and meditating there. And for this lama, it was so strange that he approached that person and asked him, "What you're doing? What practice are you doing? What you're meditating upon?" And the person replied, "I am meditating on patience." And then this lama, and I think that he was a little bit mischievous lama. He said, in order to try his patience, he said, "Eat shit." And the person immediately answered, "Eat yourself." So, so you see, this person was not actually meditating on patience or forbearance, because this person wouldn't answer that way if he really had this patience. And I didn't want to be in the shoes of that person. I didn't want to pretend anything. I didn't have much patience. I didn't have much patience, but I quite understand. I quite understand that in many cases, you need to understand the position of the opposite of your opponent, and see the pride that is swerving inside of you. And this is what you need to deal with. That's how I understand it. Otherwise, is it acceptable if somebody slandering, if somebody saying something wrong, if somebody is leading people astray, if somebody is indoctrinating unmatured minds, does it mean that we need to give the victory to that person in just to sit and do nothing? No, I do not think it's the case. I didn't think it's the case. Inside of you, yes, you give victory to that person. You understand that if you acting out of pride, you need to distract your pride. But if this person and actions of that person is actually creating a lot of harm to the people, probably you need to do something.
I
You need
agree
to
completely.
start to clarify the situation, or maybe debate with this person, or bring the counter arguments from your side, but not out of hate, not out of hatred or envy or pride, or maybe aversion, but in order to make this situation right, and so that this person doesn't accumulate more negative karma.
I agree 100%. I think that's very very important, to not just be vegetable, like it has been mentioned, but to take appropriate action. But of course, I think many times, from I think a similar would be like a parents disciplining their children. If they do it out of their emotions, maybe they will damage the children, right? But if they do it with clear intention, with full awareness, not to satisfy themselves, but for the betterment of the children, I think um, the chances of things going wrong is minimized. That's my view. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe I like. Hello. Yeah, can you
Yes,
hear
we
me?
can hear you.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Well, of course, because there is no such thing that a bodhisattva should or should not do, in the sense, if a bodhisattva thinks and perceives that it is beneficial for self and others, and there is no limit to his actions, actually, right? We all know the famous story of a captain who kind of kills uh, a thief who was going to do a lot of harm to self and others. So there are some stories like that in Buddhism, and then compassion could be peaceful. At the same time, compassion could be wrathful, and that's why it is said that especially in the Vajrayana, that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they take the form of some wrathful deities so that they can tame some of the people who are not tameable through the peaceful means. So it does not mean the outward act of some kind of violence does not mean that inwardly too it is a violence. It could be a completely a compassionate action. So, but I don't want to claim this, or I don't want anyone to practice it until they reach certain higher level, until they have really destroyed their own ego, and then they are really acting out of altruism. Unless they do that, otherwise it could be an abuse or any other thing. But if they are really doing it, then the most important thing to look at the situation is always is whether the action is beneficial to self and action is beneficial to others. If there is a disparity, or if there is any kind of discrimination, or then the bodhisattva has to adjust. Maybe at some given point, the bodhisattva has to think about his own benefit, but that is very rare in a way. In most of the cases, the bodhisattva should be acting uh, in favor of those people whom he thinks are not acting according to uh, the wholesome intentions and wholesome emotions. So I think it really depends on the situation, the level of the bodhisattva, like whether he has really achieved a bhumi or the ground, where he has some kind of avijja or supernatural power to judge the things, whether he is a beginner and then he's just like we say, fake it until you make it. So he's actually acting as if he is doing it, but actually it's not 100% there, but still he's trying his best to do it in so that he can improve it and he reaches the point where he can really do it, right? So uh, there are all shades of acts by the bodhisattvas of all different level and different capacities.
Okay, thank you. I think there are a few basic things which I gathered, which is seems like important. One is, of course, awareness, intention, motivation, aspirations. I get these are essential. I think in before taking action, or whether before or during taking action or making decisions, right? In general, because without awareness, we basically are lost. We are carried away by whichever direction the wind blows, or the emotion. We easily become slave of our emotion. And then intention is very important, and karma is usually heavily associated with intention. Of course, it's associated with actions as well, but I think a greater degree on the intention. Then motivation, right? Why are we doing this? And if we can recognize and have peer motivation, that's I don't know, motivation, intention, it's a little bit overlapping in my view. And then the aspiration, right? What is our general aspirations? So I think these four comes into play. I think the most important is awareness. Awareness actually can carry all the rest almost automatically if we have, I don't know, the right view. What do you think?
Okay, maybe I can give you one example today that happened.
Excellent.
Yeah. Today I was in Bodha. You all know Bodha, very famous place for Tibetan Buddhist Vajrayanists. So, and then at one point I saw one guy with a lot of birds in his in cages. So it was intended for those people who wanted to do the chetar, so like release the life, so that I know very well. Well, at that moment, I have read a lot about the idiot compassion, and then whether or not one should encourage all these things and so on and so forth. I know all this discourse. So I had in my mind like, okay, so should I buy these birds who are clearly, visibly struggling in a very small case, or should I not encourage this guy to do this thing, which we know that it's a professional thing, that he buys things and then brings so on and so forth. But then at the same time I thought, okay, these birds visibly are they are in fear. They think that something is happening to them, and this guy is doing this because he wants to have some dal bhat, rice and lentil tonight. So I said, okay, um, maybe it's not a bad thing to release these birds from this fear atmosphere that they were experiencing, and then knowingly giving this guy some money so that he can have some dharma, something in on his plate tonight. So I think there were lots of steps uh, that involved with this thinking. I had read previously, I knew the theory and practice, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, at that given situation, I had to improvise, right? And so somehow, I think it was a wholesome act that I bought some birds, and then I released them, and then something good happened. And on top of that, if I did some more connecting prayers or something else there, then perhaps it is not as bad as it is often projected. So that's what I was thinking today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Bem, I want to ask you a question about, you mentioned about the great Nagarjuna's quote, something you didn't actually go into the exact quotes, but do you recall the quote about the victory?
I don't remember the exact wording, but it was something like, may my accumulation of virtues and my happiness, etc., be matured on the be matured on the other sentient beings.
Okay.
And though there is no word victory itself, the spirit of that stanza is the same. Moreover, there is a story about Geshe Chekawa. If I'm not mistaken, Geshe Chekawa came to one of his teachers and he saw one of the Lojong mind training texts. And it is said that until some time, this tradition of the Lojong, of the mind training, was kept secret in Tibet. So it was not promulgated, it was not as popular as now. And when he saw one of the scriptures, one of the texts on the mind training, he asked his teacher, what is the source of the teaching? That's how the wise people do. They just do not rush to practice something after seeing something amazing or something unusual or something interesting. He asked his teacher, what is the source of this teaching? Because it was quite unusual. And his teacher, he quoted this stanza from the Ratnavali, from the precious garland of Nagarjuna. And then the person understood that this is true teaching. Comes from Nagarjuna himself. And it cannot be just, Bibek, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. Yes. Here, probably it is important to emphasize on the first point of 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, right? So it is written, as far as I remember, I think it's first. So the first point is that a Bodhisattva should read or listen the scriptures, then then reflect on its meaning, and then contemplate or meditate on the certainty he acquires through this analysis. So here we are clearly talking about clearly comprehending what is good, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, clearly comprehending what should be abandoned and what should be cultivated in the path as a bodhisattva, and what is my my responsibilities, right? So for that, I would say, since it's not like me, it's like I have read it as a parrot, but all the scriptures, all the great gurus always say that wisdom is the eye, that is the forerunner. So everything should be guided by the wisdom. So when we are talking about this kind of situations, when we have to somehow judge it, not in a very negative way, but somehow come to a conclusion, then I think the most important thing is the wisdom that you acquire reading those scriptures, knowing completely what is your duty, what are things you are supposed to do, and at the same time you use the same thing, analytical things, in a given situation, and you come to a conclusion whether your compassion is correct, it is directed towards the right direction, whether your inner compass is correct, and then you act. Otherwise you don't act. Actually, there are many places in Bodhicharya Avatara where Shantideva says, okay, I just stop. At this point, I don't even move, and first I reflect, right? So that is the most important thing in Buddhism, and more important in Mahayana, I think, that you use your faculties, you use your wisdom faculty as much as possible to come to uh, as far as possible, correct conclusion.
Yes. Do you remember one quote where it's something like "Give your enemy your victory and take upon yourself their defeat"? Does this ring any bell to both of you? And do you know the source of this?
Yeah, I think it's a Chekhov's the eight. How do you say this? Eight verses or points, right? So you give the victory to your enemy, and then you try to lose, in the sense that you do not want to pursue your negative emotions. You know that this is not the situation for anyone to win, as Bem has put it quite nicely before. And then there is no one to win. There is no such thing as happening, actually. Even the whole situation, the whole scenario is idiotic, because that's just our conceptual thought, like one after another superimposed, and then we created a fairy tale about the whole situation, right? So of course, when you understand this, like when you understand that the dream is not a dream and the objects in the dream are not true, right? And then the everything is just your dream, then you don't react. You don't want to win. Like let's say that you are in a dream and you are in a lucid dream, right? You know that you are aware that what is happening. Then um, there is a football match between you and other person. What does it matter? It doesn't matter, right?
Yes, and there's
So
no point for this stanza
there is
either in
no
that
point.
case. So that
Yeah.
we don't have to discuss into the ultimate, when we recognize this.
No,
But
no, it's
what about taking this sentence into practice? That's
yes.
the question.
Well, I told you that fake it until make it. So that's how the bodhisattva path works.
Thank you.
So your innermost guidance, the guide is always the ultimate truth. We cannot deny it. We know that we have not realized it, but we try to use it as a compass so that we are in the right direction. We might not be completely in the right direction, but at least, like for example, what are the three pillars of Mahayana and Vajrayana? They are renunciation, bodhicitta, and the right view or sunyata. You cannot these are the three pillars of the Mahayana path. So you cannot live it at any given time. And if you lose the wisdom at any given time, you are actually not a Buddhist. I'm sorry, right? So it goes towards a very idiotic compassion, or not a very correct compassion. So that's why at any given point, I would emphasize on the wisdom, and that also the ultimate. If it is possible, it is a living experience, it is good. If it's not, at least conceptual. That is the compass for all Buddhists, I think.
I think Bem, you might have something to say about this sentence, this reference.
Yeah, that's very nicely and beautifully explained in the Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara. He cites a lot of reasons why should we do it at all. Because if we look from the mundane point of view, you're the same as me. I am the same as you. We have the same rights. You are human. I am human. So why should I do anything for you? You're worth as much as you do yourself. Your success worth as much as you earn it yourself. Why should I bother to do something at all about about somebody's happiness? And there are many different approaches that were taught by many different teachers. For example, there is one very, very practical one. If you want to be happy, you want to be safe, you want to be people around you, be safe and be happy. Why? Because if they are happy, if you make people happy, they will make happy you yourself happy. That's first of all. Secondly, and that's what His Holiness the Dalai Lama says. The Buddhist, we are the Buddhists of the 21st century, and we need to be clever Buddhists. Even if you are egoistic, you need to be egoistic wisely. You want to be happy, want to be safe, make all the people in your house safe and happy. and then everybody will be, it will be safe and happy for you. People will be happy, will be smiling, sharing things with you, taking you to place, and etc. And you, and they will not be scared of you. They will entertain no any doubts or fears about you, and it will make you not only you but the people around you happier. That's first thing. Second thing, and if you come from the point of view of the 7 point mind training, oh, I'm sorry, 7 point, but he cheated generation. First, it's the understanding that all of the sentient beings used to be your mothers. And if you think about that, if there is an affinity of the rebirth that you were be you have been taking in this samsara from beginning this time, and if you take that endless quantity of the sentient beings that also are residing here, then quite probably all of them used to be at some point your father or mother or somebody you cared a lot about, or they also cared about you. So from this point of view, it's also there is no point not to care and not to give your victory to the sentient beings. And there is a third line of reasons. First of all, when we talk in terms of society, what's more important, wishes and aspirations of one person, or aspirations and wishes or benefit or the well-being of the whole society? There is no question. And democracy quite obviously, quite clearly shows it. So the interests of the society are much more important, and that's what Shantideva says among many different things. That's one of the things he says in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. And besides, you need to understand that why you are better than anybody else. No, you're not. Because we are feeling sentient beings. We have feelings. We experience everything on the same level as all the other sentient beings and human beings too. Why your experience or why your emotions and feelings are more important than somebody else? No, there is no reason. And even more important, in order to become a Buddha, what do you need? You need sentient beings. There is no way you can become a Buddha without sentient beings. If you practice giving, you practice it with sentient beings. If you practice moral discipline, not killing, you cannot practice it. Patience, of course, you can practice patience only with the sentient beings. And all of the practices you practice, most of them are not possible to be practiced without sentient beings. And sentient beings have this Buddha seed, Buddha potential inside of them. So basically, they are the same as Buddhists. And Buddhists cherish the sentient beings most of all. And if you make sentient beings happy, this is the right and almost the only way to make Buddhists happy. And all of those reasons are reasons why you should give the victory to the others, because Buddhists would do it themselves. And if you want to make Buddhists happy, make sentient beings happy, and you will make Buddhists happy absolutely by just doing that. This is what Shantideva says. And Shantideva is sometimes so shrewd. I mean, so clever.
That's a beautiful way
Okay, maybe,
to actually. Yes, Vivek.
yeah. I let's say I talked about the wrathful compassion, and then we can see that that even in the Sravaka text, for example, there is one Jataka. I think, as far as I remember, it is Umagga Jataka, where there is one guy who competes with the Buddha in that life all the time. He creates all kinds of obstacles and so on and so forth. He was so obstinate. that at one point the Buddha had to resort to some kind of violence. He grabs his head and he rubs his nose on the floor until the blood comes out, and then that person is tamed. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to be a bit careful about this idea of compassion. That there are certain so-called compassions which are actually some other ethical standards, let's say, of other religions, which is not the compassion of the Buddhists, right? So we have to distinguish even about this point. We have to be. Oh, I think I lost. Hello.
You're fine. You're fine. We can hear
me?
you.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, I think I lost.
We can hear you. Can you hear? Maybe you cannot hear us. Okay. Okay, I think he's gone, disconnected.
Okay, while Bibek doesn't have connection, let me cite the precious garland of advice to the king. I found the lines, and they in English, in an English translation, they sound as follows: May the negative actions ripen upon me, and may all my virtues ripen upon them. So those are two lines from Nagarjuna's Ratnavali, Precious Garland of Advice for the King, and they are the basis for the mind training practice. So of course, there are some other sources but this was cited as one of the most important. And Geshe Chikawa came to his teacher Geshe Sharava, and he had this question, and he got this answer. And this is the basis, one of the foundations for the mind training lineage, mind training practices.
From my own little knowledge, I completely agree, of course, naturally. And also this is, I think, directly related to the Tonglen practice, if I'm not mistaken. What do you think?
Yes, I think this is the basis. I think in this story, when Geshe Chikawa came to his teacher, he didn't know the mind training, and he was quite amazed by the mind training itself and by the practice of Tonglen, practice of giving and taking. Because you give all the good that you have and take all the bad that the sentient beings have. And sometimes for some people it just doesn't fit into their minds. It's just inconceivable for them. How? Why should? And I remember when I started studying Buddhism, it was quite natural question for me. I thought, why should I? Why should I be grateful to somebody for something if I created this karma? If I created karma to have something, for example, have food or have clothing or something else, this is the karma that I have, that I created myself. And why should I feel feel grateful to anybody at all? This is my karma. This is creation on my own hands. And then one of my teachers, he was laughing so much when I asked him, when I asked that question. He was laughing so much. And he said that you need to understand that even if you have all the money in the world, if there were no human beings, or say sentient beings in this world, even if you had all the money, all the gold in the world, there would be nobody to create this for you. I mean, like nobody to give you food and clothing and everything, even if you had money and gold and etc. And we need to understand the basic value of sentient beings. We need to understand that there is no way we can practice Buddhist practice or become Buddhists or even get what we want in the material world without kindness of the sentient beings. Because there used to be some places where even if you had a lot of money, you couldn't buy what you want. It was not possible. And only because sentient beings started to produce those things, you had an opportunity to have them. So there is also it's underlined that we need to remember the kindness, not only of our parents, but all of the sentient beings that are around us, that make us safe, make us happy, make us entertained.
I agree. For me, I think from my own experience, I experience it a little bit different. When I read about this particular Tonglen practice, I think if a person has complete openness, how can are there any possibility where this complete openness can it be harmed? That was the question that arose in me. Of course, I concluded myself that it's no. So I found this. I entered this knowledge from that view. Yeah, so
There are a lot of questions during the practice of Tonglen, because basically all of us, to be honest, all of us are selfish people. And if you practice Tonglen, it means that you give everything that is good and take everything that is bad, all the negative karma and suffering and etc. And for many people, this visualization is quite powerful, and they are scared because you take something bad from people, and it may cause something bad for you on the real level. I mean, on the material level, if you constantly, day after day, visualize that you are taking cancer and all the sufferings and tension and depression from people, then many people are scared that eventually you will get what you take. And it all basically it shows our level of the selfishness, because even understanding the explanation, still people have these fears. And of course there are different explanations that on our level of visualization and meditation we cannot take the sufferings of the sentient beings. And the high level bodhisattvas, they can take it, and they take it. They do not have any concern about their own well-being.
yes, I agree. From me, actually, it's a bit funny because when I started, it was like, wow, if my mind could be that powerful, then I have nothing to fear. But if my mind is not powerful, then I will absorb nothing anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
understand? Yeah. So I took
And
it
it's so,
like in that sense.
yeah, and it's very interesting because Buddhist practice is quite integral. I mean, one element or one aspect of practice is connected to other element of practice. And if you practice Tonglen, it also affects your practice of giving, for generosity, for example. And it's so good. I mean, it one thing helps other and vice versa. It's so good and so deep. And I just want to share. I remember one of our teachers, he was explaining about generosity, and he told us that some people are very scared. I mean, like, they are not able to practice generosity. And for example, you have something and you know that you can share it, you can give it, but still you cannot, because it belongs to you, it's very dear to you, and you cannot give it. And our teacher said that there are ways to start practice generosity. When you see a person whom you could or would give something, but you do not have this ability to do it right now, to practice it right now, take the things that you can give to that person and put it from your right hand to your left hand. just thinking about that person and about giving. And so slowly, step by step, you can develop this opportunity, develop this ability to be generous. And then you can approach the person and give it to him or her to hold, not forever, just to show, like, and to give to that person, just to leave it, let it go out of your hands. It's the next step. And then you can give it to that person for time use. It was so beautiful. I was so amazed, because in some cases, for some people, it's quite hard, even to imagine that somebody could use something like, well, like a car, my car, or something else. And it was so good, for so good an explanation for me. And it's very, very closely related to the Tonglen, because uh, if you practice Torlang sincerely, it's closely related to the generosity. You cannot give all of your happiness and virtues that you have without being able to give anything at all.
Oh, that's a very interesting connection you have made there. Thank you. Vivek, I think we are running out
Yeah.
of time. So,
Sorry,
any remarks?
I was kicked out.
Sorry, I
Yes,
didn't kick you out. It was some mysterious
it,
force.
yeah.
Yes.
It was my internet, I think. Well, that is a very that's a very nice example of what I was saying. What Bim said, that you give, well, you start with a very, very modest way, and that is the example of fake it until you make it. So you are giving something uh, with your own hand to another hand, and then you are imagining that you are doing it to someone else, and you have this motivation that you will be able to do it to other people at some point, and you can even give your own life at some point. So I think that was one of the things I was emphasizing. It is not going to happen quickly to anyone, because we have so much of ego clinging and delusions and emotional defilements, that it is almost impossible for anyone to reach to the level of the Buddha. But it can be done, and it has been done because of this kind of skill in means, that you slowly train your mind to loosen it, to bit by bit be able to understand and do, um, even to the extent that you'll be, why a bodhisattva will be able to give his own life for others benefit.
Okay. On that note, I would like to conclude. First, I must apologize if I did manage to cut you off from time to time to steer on a topic which might be incorrect at times. And second is because of course, lack of my patience. And so on this token, I would like to breathe in all the suffering that caused from lack of patience of all beings, and may it ripen upon me. And I breathe out, may all beings have all the patience and the victory and become Buddha. So on that note, I would like to conclude, and we will. Any last words, Bem, or is that a good conclusion?
I think that was quite nice conclusion. Another thing I would like to mention after Bibek, and it's quite important to use discerning wisdom. It's quite important for the Buddhist practice, and it's also can be developed. And there are steps to develop your wisdom so that you could do something good wisely. And that's all I wanted to say. I think that's was good conclusion, and I just wanted to add couple of words.
Thank you, thank you. Please stay
Maybe
with
I
us.
would just say
Yes.
one word. Yeah, I would emphasize this phrase: wise compassion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on that note, we will conclude. So we will go through the dedication prayers and announcements. Let's see. So the announcement is that we have an upcoming event on the 30th of April, which is next Sunday. So it's on the Dakini series, discussing difficult issues in Buddhism. So we have some great speakers here, including yourself, Vivek. So that's good. So this is for next Monday, and the moderator will be Raymond Lam. Okay. So please, again, stay with us. So before I say the dedication, maybe I invite Vivek to start with your dedication.
Okay, this is from the by Arya Sura. अनेन पुण्येन तु सर्वदर्शिताम् अवाप्य निर्जित्य च दोषविद्विषः जरारुजामृत्युमहोर्मिसङ्कुलात् समुद्धरेयं भवसागरात् जगत्. So, in short, by this merit, may I attain the omniscience and remove all the emotional defilements which are the enemies, and then may I take out the sentient beings from this ocean of suffering, and then make them attain the Buddhahood. So something like that.
Thank you. Achan Bem, please.
Zamba Baba Judara Kimbada, Kundo Zamba Daya Dejendea, Deda Kinga Jaza Dalaja, Giva Deda Danjera Tuimu. So basically, it says that the same way as Bodhisattva Manjushri and Samandabhadra practiced and uh, dedicated their virtues for the sentient beings, let us follow the case, follow their way, and dedicate them for the sentient beings.
Thank you. So the four great vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. Delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. Teachings are infinite. We vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable. We vow to attain it. May all beings be well, happy, and safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much.